Friday, January 15th, 2021, and you're listening to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. Their team of journalists print the stories important to our community and state, and we are happy to read you some of those stories. You can hear Local News Live Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on AOC 1, the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube, and on Cypress Street Radio at aocinc.org/CS Radio. You can find print versions of these stories and more at theadvocate.com. We couldn't bring you this community service without the generosity of our volunteer newsreaders. Today, I will be your volunteer newsreader for at least the beginning of the show. We may be joined by another volunteer newsreader here shortly. So look forward to that. So right away, we'll start off with our Acadiana headlines. And first off, in Acadiana, school employee dies from virus. Lafayette's Anna Botley remembered for her generosity. The story's by Ben Myers. 3 of Linda Broussard's siblings died at early ages within 3 years of her meeting Anna Botley in 2009 at Paulboro Middle School. The pair had already bonded over their shared passion for special needs students. But something else developed as Broussard's heartbreak deepened in the early part of the last decade. Botley brought Broussard to her church, Destiny of Faith, where for the first time Broussard felt the warmth of strangers praying for her. Botley brought Broussard to a family reunion where Broussard felt embraced like a blood relative. Botley frequently brought Broussard lunch at Lafayette High, where Broussard now teaches. "I don't think I've ever had a friend like I had with Anna," Broussard said. "As much as she wanted to be my mama, she was my sister at heart." Botley, 61, died in a hospital Sunday after being diagnosed with COVID-19. Originally from Ville Platte, Botley worked for Lafayette Parish Schools for 24 years as a bus attendant, substitute teacher, and teacher's assistant, most recently based at Austin Elementary. She is the second known Lafayette Schools employee to die of the virus, which has killed nearly 200 people in the parish. Broussard and Botley's 2 adult children recalled a preternaturally generous woman who loved her work, especially the special needs students she worked with. Botley's daughter, Kiana Patton, teaches 4th grade in Lake Charles, and they spoke every day on Patton's 45-minute commute home to Kinder, swapping stories about their students. Patton said she likely would not have become a teacher if not for her mother's example. "I tried to run away from being a teacher, but she pretty much inspired me," Patton said. Botley insisted on gifting homemade food dishes to everyone around her, and Broussard said she refused to eat in front of children unless they had food too. Botley took a lead role in organizing family reunions, making sure no one went uninvited. "Even people we might not know, if she found out they were part of our extended family, she would contact them and invite them to celebrate our family history together," said Botley's son, Rick Botley. "That's just what she did," he continued, emphasizing his mother's selflessness. "If she's got it, you had it." A viewing and funeral service for Anna Botley is scheduled for 10 a.m. Saturday at Thomas Funeral Home in Ville Platte. A private burial will follow. And in other Acadiana news, Trump supporters protest banned from parking lot, by Claire Taylor, staff writer. Supporters of President Donald Trump planning to protest in Lafayette on Saturday may have to find a new location. The Hold the Line rally, scheduled for 10 a.m. to noon Saturday to show support for Trump, directs participants to gather at Ambassador Row at the corner of Ambassador Caffrey Parkway and Johnson Street. However, the owner of the shopping center at that intersection has obtained signed letters of trespass and told Lafayette police that they don't want anybody on their property. Sergeant Wayne Griffin, spokesperson for the police department, said Wednesday, "Organizers do not have a permit and don't need one as long as they remain on the public sidewalk or on private property with permission from the property owner." Griffin said anyone parking in the Ambassador Row Shopping Center parking lot who isn't shopping at any of its stores can be towed by the property owners. not the police. Law enforcement officers probably will first warn violators they are trespassing, he said, without arrests unless someone becomes combatant. Holly Sanders organized the demonstration, which she said on 98.5 News Talk's The Ross Report on Tuesday will be a peaceful event to show support for Trump. We have a right as citizens of this country to gather peacefully and voice our support of Trump, Sanders said. We as patriots that are for Trump are going to continue to support him, Sanders said. The leaders of a local activist group, The Village, which helped lead protest marches last summer after the police killing of Trayford Pellerin in Lafayette, called on its followers not to show up in opposition to the Trump event. I would ask that all of the citizens of Lafayette, all of you who have followed us and who have continued to push this movement, who have supported us, that you would stay away from these activities, said the group's president, Devin Norman. We have no desire to engage in civil war. On Wednesday, the U.S. House of Representatives for the second time voted to impeach Trump for inciting a mob of supporters to storm the Capitol on January 6th. The House and Senate met to certify the electoral votes from the November presidential election, in which Joe Biden defeated Trump. He is the only president impeached twice. Conviction is in the hands of the Senate. Local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies are coordinating and preparing for possible unrest over this next week as Biden's inauguration approaches on January 20th. In other Acadiana news, Lafayette man arrested for role in Capitol riot. Gordon facing 2 federal charges. This story is by Claire Taylor. A Lafayette man who said last week he was among the protesters who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th was arrested Thursday. Vaughn A. Gordon, 50, was arrested in Lafayette. He made his initial appearance Thursday afternoon via video conference before federal magistrate Judge Patrick Hanna in Lafayette, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for Middle District of Louisiana, which covers Lafayette. He faces 2 charges in connection with the January 6th riot. 1 count of knowingly entering or remaining in a restricted building or grounds without lawful authority, and 1 count of parading, demonstrating, or picketing in the Capitol. Gordon told The Advocate during a gathering at the state capitol on Saturday that he was among the crowd of Trump supporters who stormed the U.S. Capitol days before, disrupting Congress as it attempted to certify results of the November presidential election, which Trump lost. Gordon said he roamed the U.S. Capitol for a couple of hours and shared selfies of himself inside the rotunda. Gordon called the January 6th event a riot, but he said he was peaceful and did not vandalize anything inside the Capitol. Others broke windows and doors, stole computers, smashed benches, and ransacked offices. Some rioters, armed with baseball bats, flagpoles, and bear spray, clashed with police, killing 1 Capitol police officer. 1 protester, a woman who was a veteran, was shot by an officer as she climbed through a broken window leading to the Senate lobby. 3 other protesters suffered other medical events and died. The House and Senate convened later that evening and certified the election results. Biden is scheduled to be sworn in as the 46th president of the U.S. on January 20th. The U.S. House of Representatives on Wednesday impeached Trump for a second time for inciting the rioters who stormed the Capitol. More Acadiana news for you this morning. Webb, longtime Northside advocate, dies, by Claire Taylor. Irwin Buddy Webb, a native and resident of North Lafayette who pushed for better education and improvements in the north side of the city, died Thursday morning after a struggle with COVID-19 and other health issues. A graduate of Northside High School and Vietnam veteran, Webb was active in the North Lafayette group CODA in the late 1990s and early 2000s, serving as its president. Webb served as chairman of the Lafayette Housing Authority in 2010 when he uncovered and reported wrongdoing by the director that led to the director's ouster and dismissal of the board. the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development took control of operating the Housing Authority for several years. Webb advocated for improved education, particularly for underserved children, and at times volunteered to read to children in the classroom. Buddy Webb was a genuine human being who believed in the potential of everyone, no matter their race, income, or zip code, Greg Davis, former Cajun Dome director and advocate, said. Up until his death, his conversations were all about fixing problems and how to make life better, especially for the north side of Lafayette. Davis added that Webb was committed to justice and wanted every human being to succeed and reach their fullest potential. Fred Prejean, president of Move the Mindset, a group fighting to remove a Confederate statue from downtown Lafayette, described Webb as honorable. He was honest, and he was progressive in his thinking, Prejean said. He dared to be a truth-teller. A longtime banker in North Lafayette, Webb helped many minority business owners obtain loans, Prejean said, and assisted residents in obtaining loans to buy homes. When minorities went in to see Buddy, he welcomed them and did everything in his power to help them as a banker, Prejean added. Webb also worked behind the scenes to help the needy, using his community contacts to find someone a place to stay or buying a meal for a homeless person. Ricky Hardy, a former Lafayette Parish School Board member and former state legislator, met Webb in 1980 when Webb approved Hardy's loan to buy a truck. They remained friends, last speaking by phone January 5th. He was always willing and trying to help somebody, Hardy said. The last time they spoke, he said Webb was trying to help somebody living in a storage room without utilities to get into public housing. He was a great guy. He loved the community, he loved the north side, and he loved helping underprivileged children, Hardy said. Although he wasn't directly active in politics, Webb didn't hesitate to pick up the telephone and call the mayor-president or sheriff to offer his advice or opinion on an issue. Funeral arrangements are pending. PSA break. Pieces of Hope virtual open mic. On Wednesday, January 27th at 7 p.m., the Festival of Words hosts Pieces of Hope virtual open mic on Zoom. For 16 years, the festival has hosted the Grand Coteau-based event featuring writers, musicians, and storytellers. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the creative community will gather online. Coming together is an act of hope. Come to share or just to listen and enjoy. The 2-hour open mic presents 20 writers and musicians, each performing for 5 minutes. Performers are from Lafayette and all over the country. Make yourself a drink, grab some cheese and crackers, and sit back to enjoy some exquisite performance that will soothe, entertain, and enlighten. To join, go to Facebook page for Pieces of Hope Virtual Open Mic. The link to the Zoom cafe will be available the week of the event. Or contact Martha at fowmartha@gmail.com. That's fowmartha@gmail.com. Or you can call 337-804-2482. This free community event is suitable for all ages and is sponsored by the Festival of Words Cultural Arts Collective. Continue on with Acadiana news this morning. Records, man-made ransom demands, accused of killing deaf woman. This story is by Katie Gagliano, a staff writer. Philip DeWoody, who is accused of killing 72-year-old Joyce Thomas, demanded ransom from her family days before her body was discovered in a wooded area off Interstate 49 in Grand Coteau in March, court documents say. DeWoody, 54, was indicted in November on account of first-degree murder in Thomas's death, and on separate charges of first-degree rape and aggravated kidnapping in the abduction and sexual assault of another Opelousas woman. His arraignment is set for February 18th in 27th Judicial District Court in Opelousas. An arrest affidavit filed by state police in DeWoody's Court case details how DeWoody used Thomas's phone to call and text her family ransom demands after abducting the deaf woman from her apartment complex on North Chattangier Street in Ville Platte on February 26th. They drove in a silver 2005 Toyota Corolla registered to DeWoody. The text message contained a video of Thomas sitting on a mattress inside an abandoned home wearing a pink shirt, pink headband, gray pants, dark jacket, and black glasses, the documents say. Philip DeWoody also instructed the family not to contact the police or something bad would happen, the arrest affidavit said. DeWoody was questioned in the case February 27th. He told officers he dropped Thomas at the Walmart in Ville Platte and had not seen or heard from her since. But investigators note in the court documents that the video surveillance contradicted DeWoody's statement. Video showed DeWoody purchasing 3 bottles of bleach before arriving at Thomas's apartment. Additionally, 2 eyewitnesses told investigators they saw DeWoody and his vehicle at an abandoned property off Interstate 49 on February 26th. They said they also heard a woman's muffled voice coming from a wooded area on the property, the documents say. Thomas's body was found March 2nd in the wooded area off I-49 on a property adjacent to the abandoned home where the ransom tape was filmed. She was covered in a chemical substance consistent with bleach, the arrest affidavit said. Additional video footage from February 26th showed DeWoody, who had been dressed in light-colored blue jeans and a dark hoodie, purchasing a spare set of clothes at Walmart, which he changed into before returning home. Investigators found a pair of bleach-stained light-colored blue jeans while executing a search warrant. Thomas isn't the only woman DeWoody is accused of harming at the abandoned property. On February 22nd, 4 days before Thomas's disappearance, an Opelousas woman was kidnapped near the intersection of Market and Fallard Streets, taken to a secondary location where she was sexually assaulted and then returned by her kidnapper, who she later identified as DeWoody. The woman's adult daughter found her on the street after growing concerned when she did not return repeated calls. She was covered in dirt and her feeding tube had been cut, an affidavit from the Opelousas Police Department says. The daughter told officers her mother has difficulty speaking and writing because of strokes in recent years. The Opelousas woman told her daughter and investigators that DeWoody rubbed her leg in the vehicle as she repeatedly asked to be returned home. At the abandoned property, she said DeWoody forced her to lay on the ground while she kicked him and asked him to go home. He then sexually assaulted her and cut her feeding tube. Afterward, he drove her back to the area where she was kidnapped and let her go, the affidavit says. After DeWoody was identified as a suspect in Thomas's disappearance, the Opelousas victim identified DeWoody as her attacker from a photo lineup and led investigators to the scene of her sexual assault where Thomas's body was later found. DeWoody had been on parole for 8 months when the crimes occurred. He has a prior criminal convictions for armed robbery, second-degree kidnapping, and aggravated escape, among other charges. He became eligible for parole under a 1990 geriatric parole law which dictates that offenders sentenced to 30 or more years become parole eligible after serving at least 20 years and reaching age 45. And in the Acadiana crime blotter, Lafayette sees the first homicide of 2021. Man, 26, killed in 9th Street shooting. This is by the Advocate staff and also reporting by KATC. A 26-year-old man died after a Thursday morning shooting in Lafayette, the first reported homicide in the city in 2021. Derek Williams of Lafayette was taken to an area hospital in critical condition after being shot multiple times in the lower abdomen. Williams later succumbed to his injuries, Lafayette police spokesperson Sergeant Wayne Griffin said in a statement. The shooting happened in the 1000 block of 9th Street around 10:15 a.m. Thursday. Officers responded to reports of a shooting and learned Williams had been taken to the hospital by an acquaintance. Witnesses told officers the shooter fled the scene on foot. He said, "Police had not identified a suspect as of Thursday afternoon. The Lafayette Police Department is asking for the public's help in identifying the man who was seen on surveillance footage wearing a blue and white or camouflage-style shirt, white jogger pants with a vertical black stripe, a black beanie, and dark-colored shoes. Anyone with information about the man or the shooting is asked to call Lafayette Crime Stoppers at 337-232-8477. A man was arrested on cruelty to juveniles. A Breaux Bridge man was arrested Thursday on cruelty to a juvenile after an infant was treated for broken bones at a St. Martin Parish hospital. Cole Horton, 25, was booked on account of second-degree cruelty to juveniles after St. Martin Parish Sheriff's Office deputies responded to a potential infant abuse case on Christmas Day. Investigators and medical professionals at an area hospital determined the infant suffered several broken bones, said a statement from St. Martin Parish Sheriff's Office spokesperson Captain Jenny Higgins. Horton was arrested Thursday and booked into the St. Martin Parish Jail. His bail was not set as of Thursday evening. A fiery fatal crash began with a traffic stop. A fatal Wednesday night crash on Interstate 10 near Louisiana Avenue began with a traffic stop in Iberville Parish, according to a statement from Louisiana State Police. State Police Troop I responded to a two-vehicle fatal crash about 8:30 p.m., according to the statement. A preliminary investigation revealed a deputy with the Iberville Parish Sheriff's Office attempted to conduct a traffic stop on a stolen 2016 Dodge Charger in Iberville Parish. The driver refused to stop and a pursuit ensued, continuing into St. Martin and Lafayette parishes. Troopers attempted to stop the vehicle by deploying spike strips before the Charger entered Lafayette. The driver struck a contractor work truck with 3 highway workers on board. Immediately after the crash, the Charger became engulfed in flames, with the unidentified driver trapped inside. The driver of the Charger, who has not been identified, was pronounced dead at the scene by Lafayette Parish Coroner's Office. The 3 workers were transported to a local hospital with moderate injuries. Due to the severity of the crash, investigators were unable to obtain a toxicology sample from the driver of the Charger. A routine toxicology sample was obtained from the driver of the work truck and will be submitted for analysis. The crash remains under investigation. In 2020, 14 people in Louisiana lost their lives in work zone crashes. Troop I has investigated 4 fatal crashes, resulting in 5 deaths in 2021. Man and dog killed in mobile home fire. An Opelousas man and his dog died in a mobile home fire Wednesday. The Opelousas Fire Department responded to the fire in the 200 block of Elementary Lane around 12:45 a.m. Wednesday and found the body of a man and his pet dog in a bedroom. Autopsy results are pending, but investigators believe the victim is the home's 42-year-old resident, State Fire Marshal's Office spokesperson Ashley Rodriguez said in a statement. Deputies determined the fire began in the living room, but were still ruling out factors and were unable to declare an official cause as of Thursday afternoon. The case remains under investigation, the statement said. The mobile home was not equipped with working smoke alarms. Rodriguez in the fire marshal's office stressed the importance of smoke alarms and said assistance is available through the agency's Operation Save a Life program. A man charged in crimes against nature case. Seth Wayne Danton, 34 of St. Martinville, was arrested Wednesday on 2 counts of aggravated crimes against nature, a felony. St. Martin Parish Sheriff Beckett Breaux said in an issued statement that Danton was arrested for following an investigation of sexual abuse allegations. Danton was being held at the Morgan City Jail on charges unrelated to those in St. Martin Parish, the St. Martin Parish Sheriff's Office said. He was transported to St. Martin Parish on Wednesday morning, where he was arrested. A KATC report on September 4th said Danton was arrested by the Franklin Police Department after probable cause was developed there in a child molestation case. He was arrested on accusations of felony sexual battery and felony molestation of a juvenile. Bail was set at $200,000, KATC reported then. listening to Local News Live on AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. Right about now, we're going to take a little trivia break from the headlines, so we will start with our Today in History, reported by the Associated Press. Today is Friday, January 15th, the 15th day of 2021. There are 350 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on January 15th, 2020, Chinese officials said they couldn't rule out the possibility that a new coronavirus in central China could spread between humans, though they said the risk of transmission appeared to be low. On this date, in 1862, the U.S. Senate confirmed President Abraham Lincoln's choice of Edwin M. Stanton to be the new Secretary of War, replacing Simon Cameron. In 1865, as the Civil War neared its end, Union forces captured Fort Fisher near Wilmington, North Carolina, depriving the Confederates of their last major seaport. In 1892, the original rules of basketball devised by James Naismith were published for the first time in Springfield, Massachusetts, where the game originated. In 1929, civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta. In 1942, Jawaharlal Nehru was named to succeed Mohandas K. Gandhi as the head of India's Congress Party. In 1943, work was completed on the Pentagon, the headquarters of the U.S. Department of War, now Defense. In 1973, President Richard M. Nixon announced the suspension of all U.S. offensive action in North Vietnam, citing progress in peace negotiations. In 1976, Sarah Jane Moore was sentenced to life in prison for her attempt on the life of President Gerald R. Ford in San Francisco. Moore was released on the last day of 2007. In 1993, a historic disarmament ceremony ended in Paris, with the last of 125 countries signing a treaty banning chemical weapons. In 2009, U.S. Airways captain Chelsea Sully Sullenberger ditched his Airbus 320 in the Hudson River after a flock of birds disabled both engines. All 155 people aboard survived. In 2014, a highly critical and bipartisan Senate report declared that the deadly September 2012 assault on the American diplomatic compound in Benghazi, Libya, should have been prevented. The report spread blame among the State Department and the military and U.S. intelligence. 10 years ago, several international envoys, but crucially none from the world powers, got a look inside an Iranian nuclear site at the invitation of the Tehran government before a new round of talks on Iran's disputed atomic activities. 5 years ago, al-Qaeda fighters attacked a hotel and cafe in Burkina Faso's capital, killing 30 people. A search began for 2 Marine helicopters carrying 12 crew members that collided off the Hawaiian island of Oahu during a nighttime training mission. There were no survivors. A federal judge rejected Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's bid for a new trial and ordered him to pay victims of the deadly attack more than $101 million in restitution. 1 year ago, House Democratic leaders carried the articles of impeachment against Donald Trump across the U.S. Capitol in a formal procession to the Senate. The United States and China reached a trade deal easing tensions between the world's 2 biggest economies. And today's birthdays: actor Margaret O'Brien is 83. Actor Andrea Martin is 74. College and Pro Football Hall of Famer Randy White is 68. Actor-director Mario Van Peebles is 64. Rock musician Adam Jones of Tool is 56. Actor James Nesbitt is 56. Actor Chad Lowe is 53. Alt country singer Will Oldham, aka Bonnie Prince Billy, is 51. Actor Regina King is 50. Actor Dorian Missick is 45. Actor Eddie Cahill is 43. NFL quarterback Drew Brees is 42. Rapper reggaeton artist Pitbull is 40. Actor Victor Rasuk is 36. Actor Jesse Schramm is 35. Electronic dance musician Skrillex is 33. Actor, singer Dove Cameron is 25. Singer-songwriter Grace VanderWaal, TV's America's Got Talent, is 17. And up next we have your zodiac. Capricorns, patience will pay off. Getting along with others will make your life easier, but don't let someone push you around. Allow others the chance to spout off. Aquarius, keep your eye on the ball. Don't give in to someone if it will prevent you from reaching your goal. Look at every angle of a situation before you take action. Pisces, a physical change will fetch attention, some favorable, some not so much. Be happy that you have the freedom to do what makes you feel good. Do what you see fit, and others will fall in line. Aries, you'll release stress and tension if you do something physical. A good workout will help you distance yourself from a situation that has left you feeling uncertain. Time is on your side. Taurus, your enthusiastic attitude may not mix well with someone struggling to take care of responsibilities. If you take the pressure off others, you will get help in return. Personal growth is apparent. Gemini, take a position of leadership. What you do to ease stress for others will be recognized and rewarded. Update your image and spend more time exercising to ensure you remain healthy. Cancer, look for the good in everything and everyone. How you see situations and others will make it easier for you to make better decisions. Leo, look for practical, convenient opportunities. If someone applies pressure or makes you feel uncomfortable, back away and move on to something else. Take it easy when possible. Virgo, incorporate what you learn into your everyday life. Starting a hobby or signing up for a class will put you in touch with someone who enjoys the same things you do. Romance is apparent. Libra, take better care of yourself. Refuse to let someone push you around or put demands on you. Consider what makes you happy, and pursue people and activities that bring out the best in you. Scorpio, a friend or relative will confuse you. Find out where you stand before you make a decision that can influence the dynamics of a relationship. Look for a unique way to use your living space. Sagittarius, keep your thoughts to yourself. Something someone does or says will remind you of an incident you experienced a long time ago. Learn from the experience and watch your back. And of course, the horoscope is an entertainment feature not based on scientific fact. Moving back into our news coverage, we're going to get back into the news with an entertainment story. The story is titled Standard Bearer. With the 14 album, Acadiana's Corey Lede keeps the Zydeco flame burning. This story is written by John Wirt. Today, the lilting fiddle, accordion, and triangle-based music is enjoyed by fans around the world. But since the pandemic struck, the vast majority of live music venues in Cajun country have fallen silent. Hundreds of musicians who play Cajun and its bluesy black cousin Zydeco are hurting. John Burnett of NPR. In November, Zydeco musician Corey Lede was among the Southwest Louisiana musicians featured in Burnett's NPR story about the coronavirus pandemic's impact on Cajun and Zydeco music. As the pandemic spikes ever higher, the economic stress on musicians who perform for a living continues. I've never seen anything like this in my life, the St. Martin Parish-based Lede said. I'm trying to adapt, but it's tough. A Grammy nominee for his 2012 album, Nothing But the Best, I should say, Lede plays occasional in-person solo shows as well as some live stream performances. Just to get by and keep the chops up, he said, but it's not the same thing as playing in front of an audience and receiving that energy and seeing everybody's reaction. Though live streaming is no match for the real thing, Lede will mark this week's release of his 14th album, Corey Lede Zydeco, with a live stream performance from DBA in New Orleans. Available at stageit.com, that's STAGEIT.com. The event begins at 8 p.m. Friday with Lede singing and playing multiple instruments, followed by Micho's Melody Makers featuring Layla McCalla. In March, Lede was recording his new album at Dockside Studio in Maurice when the coronavirus pandemic stopped him in his tracks. They didn't want everybody coming in, not knowing if somebody had the virus, he said. Dockside resumed recording at limited capacity a few months later. I went in by myself, Lede said. I jumped on the drums and picked up the washboard, and the engineer, Justin Tockett, stayed way on the other side of the building. We made the best of it. Corey Lede Zydeco, the latest release from the Arnaville-based Nouveau Electric Records, is available from music streaming services and in CD and digital formats. During his pre-pandemic sessions, Lede recorded with organist Cecil Green, bassist Lee Allen Zeno, harmonica player Grant Dermody, guitarist Julian Primo, and drummer and washboard player Gerard Delafosse. The contrast between those recordings and Lede's one-man sessions make for refreshing variety, and the project's consistent virtues include his bright tenor range vocals and growing accordion prowess. The album's band recordings include This Is All I Want, a high-voltage salute to Zydeco. Lede, the band translate Fats Domino bouncing classics like I'm Walking to the equally buoyant Mon Marche. They accentuate Zydeco's blues roots by spicing the swampy Pelmo, Call Me, and Big Joe Turner jump blues classic Flip, Flop, and Fly with Dermody's harmonica. Lede pays homage to his grandfather, Buchanan Taboo Lede, in Buchanan Lede Special. A Zydeco pioneer, the elder Lede played drums with Clifton Chenier and Rockin' Doopsie. Buchanan Lede is only one part of Corey Lede's music legacy. A book that Louis Michaud, Lost Bayou Ramblers, Michaud's Melody Makers, shared with Lede, Willie Geary Bunk Johnson, The New Iberia Years by Austin M. Saunier Jr., confirmed the oral histories Lede had heard from family members through the years about the Ledes and Potiers' historic contributions to ragtime and early jazz. Michaud, a friend, bandmate in Soul Creole, and co-producer of Corey Lede Zydeco, was cleaning house one day when Saunier's book about Johnson fell to the floor and opened to a page that mentions Buchanan Lede. My great-grandfather played upright bass with Bunk Johnson, Lede said. My grandfather and his cousins, the Potiers, played in all these jazz bands. A cousin played with Louis Armstrong. All this information blew my mind. Inspired by his family history, Lede set about learning to play ragtime and early jazz. Because this is the music of my ancestors, he explained. So I have to learn this technique and incorporate it into how I hear music. I'm still on cloud 9 right now, writing 3 or 4 albums in my head. It's crazy, but I'm proud of it. And we'll now move on to state news, Louisiana state news. Vaccine effort in Louisiana picks up. Older patients fled providers with appointments. This story is by Sam Carlin. After a slow start, Louisiana's decision to make vaccines available to people 70 and older has kicked the mass COVID-19 vaccination effort into a higher gear, with more than 170,000 people receiving at least one shot. Louisiana in recent days has climbed the ranks of U.S. states in the share of its population receiving vaccine. After sitting in the bottom 10 at the start of the effort last month, Louisiana now ranks 17th among the states and the District of Columbia, according to data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Several providers say their biggest challenge is now getting enough doses to immunize the thousands of people waiting. That's a turnaround from the first 3 weeks when health workers at hospitals were slow to get vaccinated and demand wasn't meeting supply. Governor John Bel Edwards' administration on New Year's Eve expanded eligibility to include people 70 and older and a broader range of health workers. The doses began arriving January 4th to pharmacies around the state. This week, the state also pushed out to the public about 17,410 doses of vaccines that were sitting on shelves, augmenting its weekly shipment from the feds. Within the Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady of Health Systems, staffers are reaching out to older patients who fit the criteria to schedule vaccine appointments, said Dr. Jimmy Craven, president of the system's employed physician practice. The system includes Our Lady of the Lake, Our Lady of Lourdes regional medical centers in Baton Rouge and Lafayette, respectively. But until the hospitals can get more certainty they will receive a steady stream of vials, Craven said, the system isn't prepared to open up its digital scheduling process to its roughly 60,000 patients or to the hundreds of thousands of people who aren't patients within the system. Our concern is an inability to access the vaccine, he said. How do you schedule someone for something not knowing if you have it to deliver on what you're scheduled for, he said. The Louisiana Department of Health roughly doubled the number of pharmacies and other providers receiving doses this week for eligible people, but this week's shipment to providers was bolstered by the 17,410 doses that were going unused. Because of that, the state has warned that all providers might not receive shipments again next week. Department of Health spokesperson Allie Neal said the state expects to receive 58,150 doses next week, split roughly equally between Pfizer's and Moderna's vaccine. This week, about 56,000 doses were allocated to Louisiana, but 18,700 doses were diverted to a federal program for nursing homes and other long-term care facilities. It wasn't clear Thursday whether any doses would be diverted to that program next week. Just as providers are waiting on more certainty about supply, state officials are also hoping the federal government will provide clarity on the state's allocations. Although the federal government said this week it was going to stop holding back second doses to speed up the delivery, Dr. Joe Cantor, head of Louisiana's coronavirus response, said the state will have to hold back many of those doses on its own. Both Pfizer and Moderna's vaccines require second doses to be administered weeks after the first one. Until the federal government is able to give us more predictable cadence of vaccine deliveries, we're going to have to be thoughtful about those second doses and make sure those second doses are available to patients when their 21 or 28 days are up, Cantor said earlier this week. Craven said the Franciscan Missionaries Hospital System has received about 20,000 doses and administered 15,000 doses, roughly 4,000 of which have gone to older adults who are patients within the hospital system. The remaining doses are scheduled to be shot into arms next week, he said. And Our Lady of the Lake is planning to establish a mass vaccination site in the Baton Rouge area soon, Craven said. If I could get a distribution of 20,000 vaccines next week, I could administer 20,000 vaccines to the communities we serve, Craven said. Alex Nguyen, a pharmacist at West Bank Pharmacy in Harvey, said there are still a few hundred patients on the pharmacy's wait list. After it was inundated with thousands of phone calls in the hours after the state released a list of providers that would be receiving 100 doses last week. After receiving another 100 doses this week, Nguyen said that the pharmacy has administered roughly 150 and will use up the rest of its supply in the coming days. Pharmacist Randy Carr of Carr Drugs in Algiers said last week when pharmacies around the state first received doses, his wife brought in 3 of her sisters to help answer the phones because their staff was drowning in phone calls from patients eager to receive the shots. The pharmacy put patients on a waiting list, and when Carr received the second shipment of doses this week, the staff started scheduling more appointments. Some patients on the waiting list have said they found the vaccine elsewhere. 210 pharmacies and other providers, along with major hospital systems, now have vaccines and no longer need them. We probably still have 1,000 people on our waiting list, Carr said, but we don't know if all 1,000 of them need it. Louisiana shot about 201,000 doses into arms, according to state data updated Thursday, And the CDC says 370,000 doses have been distributed to the state, meaning about 54% of the doses have been used. Roughly 90,000 doses were diverted to a federal partnership with CVS and Walgreens to immunize staff and residents of long-term care facilities such as nursing homes. Compared with other states and Washington, D.C., Louisiana tied 4 other states at 9th place in the percentage of doses distributed that have been used at 47%. That number is lower because the CDC data takes into account only first doses, excluding the roughly 31,000 second doses Louisiana has reported administering. West Virginia leads the pack, having used 74% of the doses distributed to it so far, CDC data shows. COVID-19 coronavirus, the latest numbers in Louisiana, cases in Louisiana. There are 7,631 deaths in Louisiana, and to date there have been 320,462 positive cases. To remind everybody that you can read all of the articles, including ones that were not in the print edition that we used to put together this news program this morning, at theadvocate.com. You can go over to theadvocate.com and look at the Acadiana Advocate to get all of your Acadiana and state news. We're coming to the end of the show, so I'm going to go on to the sports section. And we have a story by Kevin Foote, sports writer for The Advocate. And the story's headline is Cajuns hit the road for first time in a month. UL heads to Arlington with an 8-3 record. The UL Ragin' Cajuns hadn't played a road game since making the short trek to New Orleans on December 2nd, and hadn't left the state since the impromptu meeting with Baylor in Las Vegas on November 28th. That changes at 6 p.m. Friday when Coach Bob Marlin's squad takes on the UTA Mavericks at the College Park Center in Arlington, Texas. We're excited to get back on the road, Marlin said. We haven't been on the road since, the 1st of December? We had our first undefeated December in 38 years, but now it's time to go back on the road, he said. After splitting its first 2 Sunbelt weekend series at home to make the trip to UTA with an 8-3, 2-2 record, Marlin isn't so sure the unique back-to-back format isn't easier on the road team. In some ways, I think it's almost easier, he said. You're right there in the hotel, you've got less distraction, you're going to make fewer trips home or to your apartment on campus. We'll be tight. It'll be a quick turnaround by playing that game at 4 o'clock. In some ways, I think it would be an advantage for us, he said. The Cajuns have won 3 straight at UTA, although this year's Mavericks 6-6, 2-2 have changed quite a bit. They've got a lot of new faces, Marlin said. Shahada Wells is a junior college guard from Tyler Junior College. He's a dynamic player at the point. He's their leading scorer. He's really been good for them. They shoot the three-point shot quite a good bit. They're averaging 25 attempts per game, he said. Unlike Little Rock, UTA doesn't figure to have the size for a post-first offensive approach. The 6-foot Wells, 16 points, 3.8 rebounds, leads the way, followed by 6'3" sophomore guard Sam Griffin, 13 points and 1.8 rebounds, returning 6'4" junior guard David Azor, 11.4 points and 4.6 rebounds, and 6'7" junior forward Fredolin De La Cruz, 9.3 points and 6.3 rebounds. The Mavericks also played Little Rock twice on the road, losing 102-93 and 75-62. The 4 games were very different, with 2 and 6 lead changes in the UTA games, while the UL Little Rock game were nail-biters with the 13 and 19 lead changes in the 2 games in Lafayette. It's a challenge from Saturday night, said Marlin on losing both Saturday games so far. We're undefeated in white uniforms on the year. We turned over to dark and we played well on Saturday, but had a second half defensive lapse in both games. You've got to finish the game. It's hard to beat a good team on back-to-back nights, the same team. That's something we're dealing with, and now we're going on the road for the first time against Little Rock. The Cajuns reduced to turnovers to 13 a game and displayed progress overall offensively, making 14 three-pointers to only 6 for the Trojans. Star sophomore guard Milik Wilson was a combined 8 of 22 shooting from the field, seemingly not getting any rolls on the rim to go his way. No, we wanted him to take some of those shots, Marlon said. This will vary from game to game. Milik did not have a couple that went in and out, and look at the other end. There were a lot of friendly bounces on the other end both nights for Little Rock. We didn't get the breaks this time, and maybe we can get them moving forward, he said. It's also likely the minutes played by UL's roster will change in this UTA series. Freshman center Isaiah Richards played 35 minutes in the 2 games compared to just 11 for Jacoby Gordon to match up with Little Rock's trio towers of 6'10 Ruat Monyong, 6'10 Nicola Merrick, and 6'9 Chris Bankston. Freshman guard Ty Harper played 11 minutes in both games, and even more could be in order, as well as JUCO transfer Brian Ah coming off his 2 best games as a Cajun. We're going to play the guys that are efficient. They're going to get more playing time moving forward. And as we come to the end of the show, we want to honor those who have passed funerals today in the Acadiana area. Joseph Forestier will be laid to rest at Evangeline Memorial Gardens Chapel in Karen Crow at 2 p.m. Jean Poupart, Lafayette Memorial Park Cemetery at 2 p.m. Marjorie Stelly will have funeral services at St. Teresa Catholic Church at 2 p.m. And Jimmy Wright will have services at Asbury United Methodist Church at 2:30 p.m. This has been Local News Live for January 15th, 2021. I've been your reader, Matt Roberts. Join us 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio, or the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube. You can read these stories and more at theadvocate.com. You can find out how to volunteer and more at aocinc.org. Everybody, stay safe out there. Be kind to one another. And thanks to all of our volunteers, Bruce Cohen, Daniel Rayburn. Thanks you guys for reading the news earlier this week. We'll be back again Monday with some more news. I think we'll be back Monday. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But we will be back next week with some more news. So thanks again for tuning in to Local News Live on AOC Community Media.